Welcome back to ADN TV's weekly special, a focus on security in Somalia with Andrew J. Franklin. Major Franklin served as an officer in the U.S. Marine Corps before taking up residence in Kenya for 4 decades. He has been a respected security advisor and risk assessment specialist in East Africa. In Part 1, Major Franklin talked about the Somali National Army's capabilities in the face of AMISOM forces' expected withdrawal over the next year.
The Ethiopian troops are answering to Addis. See, we make a mistake. We have the reason for the interest of Addis, the Abiy government, in having troops both within and outside of AMISOM. Well, first of all, the troops were put into AMISOM because of the budget support. You don't want to lose money if you can get it. But also, there is no interest in Addis in a unified Somali state. Let's make no mistake about this. This is why if the Ethiopians are involved in Somaliland or Puntland or Gito, it's because from their worldview and their experience since 1997 or earlier in the Ogaden, where they have their own Somali state, an integral part of Ethiopia, that they basically would like, they don't want terrorism, they don't want Al-Shabaab, certainly, because Al-Shabaab is a unifying force. Like them or not, it's irrelevant, because Al-Shabaab wants a unified federal government of Somalia as an Islamic organized entity. So their interest is essentially supporting alternatives to the Farmajo government, and without necessarily causing warfare. They don't want to imperil their own troops. But it also means that, given the recent disturbances inside Ethiopia, it means that you can't count on the Ethiopians being where they're supposed to be within Somalia. Again, how does an AMISOM force commander make any plans if he can't count on troops actually being in the bases and being able to be deployed when they're needed to support AMISOM, as opposed to being returned to Ethiopia to suppress rioting and civil disobedience? Neighboring countries are not supposed to be troop-contributing countries, because neighboring countries are viewed as having parochial interests in the country in which they've been deployed. No more so than Kenya in Jubaland, whether it's the commercial aspects or the cross-border clan aspects between Garissa and Kismaayo. That's not the situation where Ethiopia has, because mea culpa, I had viewed the Ogaden as a success because we don't find terrorism in the Ogaden. I say mea culpa only because there are roughly 50 to 60,000 Ethiopian Ogadeni domestic security forces, and until about 18 months ago it was a brutal regime, a state regime, and that was basically the reason they were not suffering attacks from Al-Shabaab or others, is they were essentially suppressing their own people. Now what's interesting though is that since that government, and I believe the governor was hauled away to go to jail for human rights abuse, but they haven't had an upsurge in Al-Shabaab attacks or cross-border terrorism, which does tell you that there are things their devolution is working in the argument in many ways. Devolution in Kenya, in the 5 frontline counties, however, is not working, and a lot of that has to do with how Al-Shabaab has actually disrupted the implementation of what the Kenyan Constitution requires of the 14 devolved functions, whether it's health or disaster management. So there's ethnic Somalis in northeast Kenya have no skin in the game. They are not seeing the benefits of devolution. Obviously, the Ogadenis in Ethiopia are seeing some benefit. The goal of devolution under the 2010 Constitution of Kenya has been to devolve, to bring services closer to the people in all 47 counties. The the 5 frontline counties of Wajir, Garissa, Mandera, Lamu, and Tana River have always been seen as marginalized. They are primarily Islamic, they're Muslim, mainly ethnic Somalis, and they've always gotten the short end of the stick when it came to distributing national resources. Now, there's the perception throughout Kenya is that devolution is working. People seem to believe that it's working. It's impossible, however, to take surveys, it seems, in these 5 frontline counties. But more importantly, when Al-Shabaab, education is a national function, but Al-Shabaab has killed so-called Kenyan teachers and essentially created so much insecurity and instability within these 5 counties that normal life does not take place. Just as we don't know what's happening with coronavirus in these counties necessarily, although Mandera was one of the counties that was shut down, we also know that contact tracing in these counties is extremely problematic where it shouldn't be. In other words, if you are fighting an insurgency, you should be able to locate people. You should be using foreign assistance or assistance in food aid and the like to reach out and demonstrate in your hearts and why your people who live there, their hearts and minds should be with Nairobi rather than sitting on the fence, perhaps, or with Al-Shabaab. But that's not happening. And we also know in the aftermath of the invasion of Somalia in October of 2011, that the terrorism, not just in Nairobi and Mombasa, which picked up, but also the Al-Shabaab began assassinating assistant chiefs, started dismantling the provincial administration. And then we had lots of assistant chiefs and the like resigning. They were saying we're not being protected. They were asking for more security personnel. You know, we've seen in the last week, for example, an Al-Shabaab attack on Safaricom masts in Garissa County. Now, apparently there are 200 masts scattered across the border region, and there may be up to 2,000 armed Kenyan police defending them, parceled out in little groups, which is not a very effective use of manpower. It also, it was described as the attack was beaten off, but after the masts have been destroyed by Al-Shabaab. In other words, Al-Shabaab is not there to take on the police and kill them all, although they have been attacking police posts along the border, creating so much instability and insecurity that the police themselves don't go out and patrol.
ADN TV will continue our conversation with security expert Andrew J. Franklin on Sunday, focusing on the withdrawal of Kenyan troops from Somalia.